I'm okay. How are you?
I'm great. It's been a year since we have
Since the last time we've seen each other
since
or
the
spoken.
last time we've spoken. And Olivia and I randomly ran into each other in the streets, and we were like, "Hey, remember that thing we used to do?" We talked into microphones about movies. We should try that again now that our lives have evened out. Life is a little more sane and organized for the two of us. So we decided to come back in and give it another go.
Aaron Sorkin really tried to keep us down, but we are coming back. We keep coming back.
We've survived multiple assassination attempts.
We had to go
hands of
underground
Aaron
for a little
Sorkin
bit.
and his goons. But here we are.
Yes.
Live and well, and ready to get back into another picture show podcast. For those who may or may not be listening, my name's Madeline.
I'm Olivia.
And we're best friends from high school. We've been best friends for well over 10 years now. And we like to talk. And Olivia is a film extraordinaire. She knows everything about film. And I don't.
Yeah, that's the gist of the show.
The end.
Most of the time, Madeline doesn't know what movie we're going to watch and review. But since it's been a year and we needed to have a plan coming back into this episode, we mutually agreed on this week's episode. So there's no intro. We're just gonna get into it. So we'll get into the review in a little bit, but first we have some, I think, housekeeping. We need to just catch up, I think.
Of course.
It's been a year.
Dying to know where we've been.
Yeah.
We had to go underground for so long.
So what have you been up to?
Yeah, so it's been almost exactly a year since we last sat down and recorded. Since then, I've bought a house. I've moved into my house. I'm gay now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, I've been new, but it was really fun looking back at all of the signs, and you're just like, wow, it's kind of silly when you really just sit there and think about it. And I was the amount of dodging you do in a heteronormative society is really wild. So there's
welcome to the club.
Right? Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. Cheers, queers. Yay.
Also, congratulations on the house.
Oh yes. Yay, gay. Oh, a cool house. Good job, little buddy. Thank you. So I'm still kind of doing some projects on it, but it's I've been in this house for, I think next month will be the year mark for my purchasing, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm pretty hyped. What about you? What is new for you, my dude?
I'm pretty sure a year ago I started a new job, but then I have since quit that job and I just got a new job today. So
Yay!
Making progress. I have a new dog.
Nice.
And she is a little terror, but we love her.
How old is she now? She's still a puppy, right?
She's gonna be 9 months in about a week. So basically 9 months.
Yeah.
So still a puppy. She's in her teenage phase. I think that's about the teenage phase for dogs.
Right.
She loves getting into trouble. She has a lot of energy, and she keeps me on my toes. She keeps me young.
She keeps me young, yeah. My brittle old age.
Yeah, I need of 28.
Ripe age of 28. Oh my God.
Yeah. Have you watched anything fun or cool in the past year?
Yes, I have. And one of them is in my top 5 that we're going to discuss later. So I won't say what it is now, but it's that movie that I'm thinking about in particular was the favorite that I've watched recently. And what else have I seen that was really good? I rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Nice. The extended editions, because I finally got HBO Max. So I was on a work trip a couple weeks ago, and I was I just binged all of them when I got off work. It was great. So I watched probably 12 hours of Lord of the Rings, no regrets.
Well, that's cool. I'm trying to think. if I watched anything cool. I watched Stranger Things.
That's right.
This, season 4. That was pretty good. I feel like for a while there, Stranger Things was not keeping me interested. Season 3, I was barely hanging on, and I decided to check this season out to see like if I was gonna give up for good. But I feel like this season it brought it back.
It really had a huge cultural moment. I mean, it always has, but I feel like this season in particular, it just like beat the shit out of everyone. Like fucking Kate Bush, she's like a quadrillionaire now. Like she was like coasting on her royalties, and then like Stranger Things hit, and now she's like quadrupled her like retirement. So good for her. Stranger Things was really good. I feel like TikTok and Instagram are starting to like meld into like the same platform in some ways, because like every video that's on TikTok is now on Instagram and vice versa. The Corn Kid's having his moment.
Yeah, this is a timestamp.
Timestamp.
Right,
Corn Kid timestamp. August 2022. That's where we are right now. And like, love the kid, love the song remix, but it is the song for every other video that pops up on my Instagram feed or my TikTok feed or whatever. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Love the kid. So glad he loves corn, but I cannot. I'm this close to deleting Instagram simply because of that.
Yeah.
It's a hot take. Like I'm sorry, corn kid. Like you're the cutest thing since sliced bread, but
yeah, I can only take so much of a trend, and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I've reached that point. Saturation level exceeded.
Kim K and what's his face broke up.
Oh, Kim K and Pete Wentz. I know. What was it?
Pete Davidson.
Disney That would have been on brand, but also wild. Because you got like Courtney and Travis Barker, and then you've got Megan Fox and MGK. So Kim Kardashian dating Pete Wentz would have been age appropriate and also just like on brand with like the men, the people in her circle are also dating. So, but yes, Pete Davidson and Kim K broke up. Sad, but not surprising, honestly.
Sad?
Sad.
And then we move on.
Sad. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My opinion, not that it really matters, but this is our show, goddammit. Is that like everybody thought they were gonna get married, like they're just so into each other. And I'm like, if anything, they probably would have dated for like 10 years and broken up. Like if they were to go the distance, I don't know if they would have ever gotten married, but they would have been together for a really long time.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I have no opinion.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I saw that they were together, and I was like, okay. And then I heard they were broken up, and I was like, okay. And then, yeah. I mean, good for them.
I'm curious to see who Pete Davidson dates next. Because I feel
like a crazy track record. Like
he really has. Like who? I saw a meme of him with the Queen of England, and like, I
mean, yeah, she's a widow now, so she's single.
That is another thing that happened since we stopped recording when Prince Philip died.
True.
Anyway, I watched like 2 episodes of The Crown, so in my opinion, like I guess R.I.P. Like who cares? Because you were kind of a douche in The Crown.
All right, so now we can get into our movie review. We're not doing a formal intro this time because we both know what movie we're gonna do. And that movie is
Pride motherfucking Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice. Motherfucking Pride and Prejudice. 2005, Keira Knightley, that one dude from Succession. Pride and Prejudice.
Based off of the classic Jane Austen novel.
Right.
I believe this is one of Madeline's favorite films.
Yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite films, and it is my number one like comfort film. Like if I'm just like cozy night in, just chilling, want to watch a movie, don't know what to watch, Pride and Prejudice. It's an easy go-to. My sister and I love this movie So we watch it all the time.
It is a very good movie.
It
I agree.
is.
It is a comfort movie. I feel like every time I've tried to watch it recently, I just become so comfortable that I like fall asleep. And that doesn't happen when I watch movies. Like it's
Yeah.
just like I'm just like I feel so warm and cozy, you know? Like I'm not saying that as like it's boring and I
Right.
sleep
I'm like,
much.
careful now. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
it's
Tread
like-
lightly.
No, I'm just it's like it just makes me feel comfy and nice. So all right. So our plan is we're gonna review this movie, talk about it for a while, and then at the end of this episode, we're gonna talk about our top 5 favorite book to movie adaptations. And I'll get into the rules for that when we get to that. But that's going to be kind of our plan for the rest of this episode. So before we get into our thoughts on the movie, I'm going to give, the quick facts like normal, and then we can move right along. All right. So Pride and Prejudice is a 2005 romantic drama film adaptation of Jane Austen's classic novel of the same name. The film features an 18th century English family of landed gentry as they deal with issues of marriage, morality, and misconceptions. The film was directed by Joe Wright in his feature directorial debut and was written by Deborah Magich. The cast includes Keira Knightley, Matthew McFadyen, Donald Sutherland, Rosamund Pike, Jenna Malone, Judi Dench, Tom Hollander, Simon Woods, Carey Mulligan, and Rupert Friend, amongst many others.
It's one of those movies because like it's since it was back in like 2005. Are you done? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, shut the fuck up about those stats, Olivia.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's cool. Shut the fuck up. Well, when because you were like, it's stacked, and it's funny because like, yeah, it definitely is, but it's like a lot of the people were in this movie before their careers like exploded, like Carey Mulligan, Keira Knightley. This was around the time that she was doing Pirates of the Caribbean, so like I guess it's same wavelength, and like Love Actually, she was in Love Actually, but Matthew McFadyen, I don't remember him in anything else before Pride and Prejudice. So like a lot of these people, like obviously Donald Sutherland's been around since like literally the dawn of film. So love him, but it's true. So some of these people had well-established careers, but like a lot of people, you're like, oh my God, they're in this movie. And it's like, yeah, it was one of their first ones before their career launch. So that's why it's amazing. I mean, I just love the whole thing. It is very close to the events of the book. I honestly can't remember if there's anything that's like, except for the very, very, very last scene where they're like sitting in front of the big, palace, and they're, he's like calling her Mrs. Darcy or whatever. That doesn't happen in the book.
No.
That's the best scene of the fucking movie. It's very close to the book. I just drink it in every time, and the drama, like just your heart aches a little bit and you're just like, like silly fools. It is all about misunderstandings. Like there's so much more than you think,
I am relatively new to Pride and Prejudice. Like I had not read the book until recently. And I had not seen the movie until like last year sometime. So I feel like I'm a baby to like Jane Austen and Pride and Prejudice, but I feel like in researching for this episode, I did like a whole crash course of Pride and Prejudice content. Yeah. And it's slowly becoming one of my like favorite things that exists. The movie itself is just like gorgeous from start to finish. And I'm amazed that it's Joe Wright's first like feature film, because it's incredible.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't feel like a first film, which is
it's beautiful.
A testament to him and his talent as a director. The performances are great. I feel like everybody feels very true to the characters in the book, but also fresh and like accessible for modern audiences like myself. So
right.
Yeah, I really enjoy this movie, and I'm glad we get to talk about it.
I know, I can't wait. Let's get into it.
Okay, have you seen any other like adaptations of Pride and Prejudice?
I have seen the miniseries with Colin Firth, which is also very good.
Yes, it is.
But it is a bit more like stiff. Like it is just a bit more like, I don't know.
It's more book accurate.
Right. And it's almost like it was, no offense to the British, but it's almost like made more for British audiences because it was like a BBC like mini series. And like, you know, you and I both have like lived in England, and like, you know, I have family in the UK and Ireland. So, you know, I'm like, I get it. Like, I get there's like, I love British media. So, but like you're watching it like as an American, and I'm sure you were nodding your head. It's like, this is a very British program. Like
it's much drier than the movie.
Yeah, the movie has like a lot more funny moments, like a lot more just like awkwardness.
Yeah, I've seen the miniseries. I think it is also very well done. I think both the miniseries and the movie kind of have pros and cons to both that I could appreciate. And both are similar and different to the book in different ways.
Right. But the big pro for the miniseries is Colin Firth. Like,
yeah, I agree.
And the biggest pro.
His diving scene, classic. I also saw a like YouTube miniseries, like a web series called the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and it's basically just Pride and Prejudice, but it's a web series performed by some actors doing the story, but like modernized.
Oh, I never
as like a YouTube like channel. It was really good. It was very cool. So check that out if you're interested in more Pride and Prejudice content. Adaptations, you know. All right. I guess, Madeline, would you like to start off with a synopsis?
Always.
And we can just go through the film that way.
Sounds good. I'll make this brief. I know I can go on forever about them. So we start with the Bennet family. There are, 5 girls in the Bennet family. The oldest is Jane, hot one. Lizzie, smart one. Also Mr. Bennet's favorite. Then we have Mary, plays the piano. She's annoying. And then we have Kitty and Lydia. And Lydia's the youngest. She's annoying as fuck. And Kitty kind of just does whatever she does. So that's the Bennets for you. Mrs. Bennet is obsessed with getting her daughters married off. And Mr. Bennet's just kind of like, go with the flow, you know, really nice dude, but like, is he really that attentive? No. They catch wind that Mr. Bingley, his sister, and a friend have taken residence up at this like big manor house out in the country where they live. And basically, the reason Mrs. Bennet's obsessed with getting her daughters married off is that, you know, they need to be secure because once Mr. Bennet dies, Mr. Collins is the next male heir, so he inherits the property and will do whatever he wants with it, and that might mean kicking them out of the house. So she's like, let's get these hoes married off. Let's get them married to like wealthy ass men because like I didn't raise any quitters. So they meet Mr. Bingley. They insist that he has a ball. Mr. Darcy's there. Well, there's a big dance first, and that's when he shows up at like the local.
It's like a social dance hall, yeah.
Yeah, the local dance hall. So he shows up there first, and that's when they first meet him, and that's where we first meet Mr. Darcy. And Mr. Darcy speaks to Elizabeth, and like, you know, at first you're like, ooh, oh my gosh, attraction? Weird. And then you find out later he's like, ew, Lizzie, gross. And she's like,
she ugly.
She ugly. She's not cool. She just has a brain. And then, you know, Lizzie Bennet's like, okay, cool, like, fuck off, I guess. But Mr. Bingley is really into Jane. Because, you know, she's beautiful. She's played by Rosamund Pike, so naturally super hot. Even for like, you know, 18, whatever, 20s dress wear. Anyway, so Jane is invited out to, you know, dine with Mr. Bingley's sister. Mrs. Bennet is the sneakiest bitch. Mrs. Bennet's like, you're not taking a horse, you're gonna walk. And she's like, or you're going to take a horse. You're going to go by horseback. You're not taking the carriage. And Jane's like, what the hell? And Lizzie's like, no, it's going to rain. So it rains while Jane's riding out. She gets sick. Lizzie has to go and like check in on her sister because like back in those days, like even though it's like, you know, maybe 5 miles away, the fact that she's ill means that she has to stay there for like a week until she's better and can return home. So Lizzie's like, screw this, I'm gonna go and check up on her because we haven't heard from her in, you know, a day or so. So she goes out there, you know, of course, Mr. Darcy's there, and that's where they're kind of like tete-a-tetes begin. They're challenging each other a little bit intellectually, a little bit of flirtation. You're like, oh my God, like this is kind of crazy. Then the rest of the Bennet women show up, beg Mr. Bingley to host a ball. He does. So the ball is high-key a disaster for all the Bennets. Like all the Bennets except for Jane and Lizzie, like just do not look good. Mrs. Bennet's drunk. The two younger ones, Kitty and Lydia, are just acting fools. Mary is playing the piano badly. Mr. Bennet's just kind of like a doofus, like floating around. Love him, but still. So after the ball, the Bingleys just kind of like close up shop and leave. And they don't really know why, except like they're just going back to London. And Jane's all upset because she was like, oh, I thought I was going to marry this guy I really like. Like, I don't care about the fact that he's like filthy rich. Like, he was just like really cute and like basically a human golden retriever. And I wanted to marry that. And so, you know, she's really upset by that. She takes off to London to like get some R&R. They travel a lot around like England. You kind of forget where everybody goes.
Mm-hmm.
Or before that, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, Mr. Collins shows up, the cousin that's supposed to inherit the little estate that they live on, the little farm they live on. And he's looking for a wife because he's the pastor for this rich duchess. And he's like, well, she wants me to get a wife, so I'm going to go get me a wife. And he's like, hey, Mrs. Bennet, how about Jane? And she's like, no, not Jane, but Lizzie's available. And he's like, ooh, Lizzie. So he tries to propose to Lizzie. Lizzie's like, fuck right off. So that doesn't work. Mr. Collins then proposes to Charlotte, who is Lizzie's best friend. So Charlotte and Mr. Collins go off and get married, and they go move into the priest house at the lady's estate. So Lizzie goes and visits them. And then while she's there, fucking Darcy shows up. And you're just like, And he's like, oh, this Duchess is my aunt, right? And you meet like the Duchess, who's Judi Dench, and then the cousin, her daughter, who's this like frail ass girl. You don't know who she is. She just like, that girl's important because she's supposed to be like married off to Darcy, and that doesn't work out, obviously. So like Darcy shows up again. You're like, okay, cool. So then they kind of like rekindle their like friendship, kind of like weird like moments. Darcy just like walks into the house and he's like, hi. And she's like, do you want something? And he's like, oh no. And then he just leaves. Best part of the movie, or one of them. The movie's great. So Lizzie finds out that the reason Mr. Bingley had closed up shop and left was because Darcy told Bingley that Jane's family was just not good stock. Like, you don't want to be messing with that mess. And so you should just cut your losses and go back to London. So, but he did this in like in his mind, he was protecting his friend from like just a big embarrassment, because let's be real, like they were all acting a fool except for Lizzie.
He also just thought that Jane wasn't into him. So he was like, she's not into you and her family sucks. So
you should bounce, which I mean, like valid, but also
fair enough.
Fair enough, but like, I don't know, you could have done it more gracefully, you meddling hoe. So Lizzie finds this out. She's very upset. And the same day, Darcy rolls up and it's raining. It's so dramatic. And he's like, he proposes to Lizzie. And Lizzie's like, are you fucking kidding me? You were like, I just found out you insulted my entire family. Oh, and he's going on. He's like, you're of lower like class and everything, but I don't care. Your family sucks, but I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I love
you're kind of icky, but like, I don't care.
You're still kind of uggo, like, let's be honest, but I'm still into it. I'm trying to hit. You want to get married? And it's like, absolutely fucking not. And she like rejects him so hard. It's like unbelievable. And he's like a little butthurt. So he takes off. So like kind of in and around all of this, the soldiers come to their hometown and Mr. Wickham's there. And Mr. Wickham is this lowly like foot soldier, but he's like smart and hot and like mysterious. And so Lizzie's like, ooh, who's that? And Darcy's like, ew. And Wickham's like, gross. And they hate each other. And you kind of don't know why, but at first you get Wickham's side of the story.
There's bad vibes.
Right. There's bad vibes between the two men. And you find out because I'm sorry, give me a second. Oh. Wickham tells Elizabeth that they grew up together. His father ran the estate of Mr. Darcy's father, and Mr. Darcy saw Wickham as a son, as equal to him as Fitzwilliam. So when he died, when Mr. Darcy Sr. died, Wickham wanted to join the church and then become like the resident priest at what is the name of the estate? Oh my god.
Pemberley.
I was gonna say Manderley, but that's
Rebecca.
Yeah. At Pemberley. Wow, I'm like a fake fan right now. He wanted to be the residential like pastor, priest, vicar, whatever at Pemberley. And he says that Darcy wouldn't allow it and banished him from Pemberley. And now he's this lowly foot soldier and he doesn't get his inheritance basically from Darcy Sr. So Lizzie's like, wow, Darcy, you're fucked up. So Darcy leaves her.
There's no like, digging, just is like, yes, you're right. I don't check my sources.
And so after their whole spat over the proposal, he does leave her a letter and explains his side of the story, that Wickham is actually like a douche canoe and tried to get his inheritance. He decided he wasn't going to join the church and he just wanted his monetary inheritance. And Darcy gave that to him after Darcy Sr. died. But he gambled it away. He eventually was poor again and tried to hook up with Darcy's younger sister and then run away with her, but that didn't work. He was trying to run away with Georgiana, which is Darcy's younger sister, and she was only 15 at the time. Darcy was like, me thinks the fuck not, get out of here. So then Lizzie kind of feels a little bashful because like that was one of the reasons she like yelled at Darcy. She was like, you're an asshole to Wickham. And he's like, what the fuck did Wickham tell you? So then she goes home. She meets up with her fam, her aunt and uncle, and they're like, let's do a tour of the countryside. And she's like, okay, that sounds lovely. Let's get away. And then Lydia, goes off to the south of England with this general and his wife because she wants to, I suppose. And he's in charge of like, this general obviously is traveling with the army. So she just wants to follow all the army boys around. Nobody thought that was a bad idea except for Lizzie. So while Lizzie's traveling with her aunt and uncle, they decide to tour Pemberley. And Lizzie's like, let's not do it. And they're like, oh no, it's totally cool. Like the lords of the manor are never around. Of course, they're doing the tour, and who's there? Darcy. So this is like a couple months after their like awkward kind of breakup fight. So then he invites them to the house to do like formal tour. And then they find out that Lydia, the youngest, who's 15, has run away with Wickham, nowhere to be found. And if word gets out that she ran off with some army dude, the entire Bennett family is just ruined. They can't get married. Darcy's like, I fucking love you, Lizzie. I can't marry you if your family's in ruins. I'm going to fix this shit. So he takes off. You find out later, he found Lydia and Wickham, forced them to get married, paid Wickham like a dowry, so to speak. And Lydia and Wickham are married. So, oh my God. I'm like running out of breath. This is a long movie.
A lot happens.
A lot happens. So they all come back to the Bennett house. All the girls are home. They're kind of talking about it. Suddenly, Mr. Bingley, like word has it that he's back in town. And Jane's like, I don't care. She cares.
She's trying to play it cool.
So Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy show up after Lydia and Wickham had like swaned through and like shown off the fact that they were married, and then they left again. Wickham and Darcy return. They come to the Bennett house and they're just kind of like, hi. And at first you're like, what are you doing here? Eventually Bingley comes back in and he proposes to Jane. She says yes. And so then Lizzie confesses to Jane that she actually does love Darcy. She kind of figured out that Darcy had done all of this stuff to like protect the family because he loves her. And she's like, oh my God, I was so wrong about him. Like, I love him so much. Like, we're so similar. It's actually kind of crazy. And Jane's like, what the fuck? So then the next morning's the famous scene where it's dawn and it's all misty and Lizzie can't sleep. So she's like walking through the fields, and then he comes and he's got the deepest view you've ever seen in your fucking life. And he comes up and he's like, I still love you, bitch. I ain't never gonna stop loving you, bitch. And he's like, you have bewitched me, body and soul. Basically, is like, if you still love me, will you marry me? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. Then they get married. And then the best scene at the end is he's like, they're just having a very lovely moment. So that's Pride and Prejudice, man.
Like, a lot does happen in this movie. It's very and there's a lot of like little moments too. It's
Right.
like they hate each other in the beginning because Darcy is very grumpy and Lizzie is gullible and proud in a lot of ways, but also I stand behind her.
1000%.
Yeah. If I was at like a dance and some guy was like being all grumpy pants, I would also be like, you know what? He's probably a douche canoe, and whatever negative thing I hear about him, I will latch on to.
I will believe.
Yeah.
Without following up in any way, shape, or
Yes,
form.
wholeheartedly. Yeah.
I think
I don't even know.
think what's great about it though, like, is that, I mean, it took me forever to explain it, but like it is so smooth. Like I feel like you're never lost, even though so much happens. Because they kind of like make sure to like emphasize certain things. Like the scene where, Kitty's crying because Lydia wants to go, like Lydia was invited to go with the family down to Brighton. And Lizzie is talking to Mr. Bennet and she's like, this is a bad idea. Like she's like, it's like kind of hammered in that like Lydia's a flirt. This is a bad idea. You shouldn't let her go. And like Donald Sutherland's like, oh, I don't care. And then, then not too long after that scene, the consequences of that are exposed. So like people, if you're, watching it, it's not like you have to pay super close attention. You're just kind of like, oh, that happened like 5 minutes ago. Fools.
And I think like one of the things that this movie does really well help the audience understand the politics of the time and why like certain things are a big deal and like why certain choices are, can affect the entire family for the rest of their lives. Reading Jane Austen's book, you can tell she's not writing it as like this is going to be a timeless classic and I need to make sure that
everyone in the future
in like 2022 will be able to understand what I'm talking about. She like is writing for her contemporaries and trust that they already know like what she's talking about. She doesn't need to explain how things work. But for like, me watching, I'm like, okay, how does the like money situation work here? How does Darcy make money? How does Lydia getting married to Wickham like matter? How does Mr. Collins play into all of this? And like why is Lizzie as a protagonist more complicated than just like she's a strong female character, like the movie just does a really good job of like helping tell that story without making it like they're holding your hand the whole time. I don't even know really how they do that. It's I think it's like subtle changes that they made like from the movie or from the book to the movie. I feel like in the book, the Bennett family, you could tell that they're like wild and like they're like chaotic, but they're a little more cold. Whereas in the movie, they do a good job of kind of showing like a more intimate dynamic between the family members themselves. And it feels more like, a family of sisters. And so you can kind of like relate to them a little more and see them as a unit. And also, I know, fun fact, they changed the time period in the movie compared to the original novel. I believe the original novel took place in 1813, but for the movie, they changed the time period to the 1790s. Because the director just hated the costumes, or like hated the fashion of the like 1810s.
He said,
thought that
fuck
they were
the
like
Regency era.
yeah, he was like, that's gross, I hate that. So they moved it forward a little bit to like one, like tone down the image of the like squeaky clean Regency era, like not elite, but like that class like of going on. And when we're in this era, you can kind of see like the Bennets a little more dirty and grungy, and like their lack of wealth shines through a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling, but
no, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
yeah, I just thought it was hilarious that like he was like, nah, those the clothes ugly, so let's
no
let's
powdered
go
wigs
like
on my set.
forward like 20 years and do that.
Cool.
But you can also
1 second.
tell that like Caroline's costumes, Bingley's sister, like she comes from London, and so she's wearing the like fashion from London, the like more progressive like fashion. So she's wearing the like empire waist
Yeah.
or gowns, and you can tell that she's like a little more in fashion than some of the people in Netherfield, or where are they? I don't know.
They're like kind of in the Midlands in England. Yeah. So like the country, basically.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite scenes from the movie?
It's all coming back, it's all coming back to me now. Okay, the first one that pops in my head is just like the juxtaposition between when Mrs. Bingley was like freaking, or not Mrs. Bingley, Mrs. Bennet was freaking out about Lydia disappearing, and she was like bedridden because she was just so upset. And then literally the moment she finds out she's married to Wickham and like the day is saved, she's like, Lydia, married, and at 15. Shut the fuck up, you crazy bitch. You slay me. And that was a good moment, kind of like what you were talking about, how like the movie does a good job of explaining things. Like Lizzie's like, why are you so happy that like this scandal almost like came upon us, and just like now she's married? And she's like, you know, I am the mother of 5 girls, like if when you're in my shoes, like you will understand like the importance of marrying your daughters off. Because as you said, like that would have been something that was just generally understood during the time that the book was first published and after. My other favorite scene is when Lizzie's staying with Charlotte and Mr. Collins, and she's in the house alone, and Darcy just bursts through the door. She's like, what's up? And he's like, nothing. She's like, you want some tea? And he's like, no, just leave. Like that was like one of the most relatable things I've ever seen, where you're like, you just want to like say hi to your crush, and you're like, I have no reason to be here.
No, I just love how he enters. That's also one of my favorite scenes, because it's like she's just like peacefully writing, and then it's just like a Tarantino film. Like he just like busts in, and it like zooms in on his face, and it's just like very abrupt, and everyone's just like, and then she's like, "Hi," and he's like, "Hi."
He's like, "I love you." I mean, hi. Like,
I was watching the director's commentary, and apparently he wanted to propose at that moment, but was too nervous to, and so instead he was just like,
cute. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to talk about the famous hand flex.
Yes.
Scene. Oh my god. Okay. So
Classic.
this is after Lizzie goes to the manor where Bingley and Caroline and Darcy are staying, and she's kind of checking in on Jane, and the family shows up, and like it's a whole mess. And this is when they're leaving after picking Jane up essentially from the sick house.
Yes.
And they're all loading up into the carriage, and Lizzie's last, and Darcy like bare hand to bare hand, like ooh, skin to skin contact, helps her, like takes her hand, helps her to the carriage, and they just like kind of have their like, that was like their first like contact, and you're just like the audience kind of drink that in. And it's like very, I mean, it's very quick, but like there's like, ooh. And the carriage leaves, and Darcy is like marching away, like he just seems so stone cold, he's marching away, but the hand or the hand, the camera zooms in on his hand, and he just goes like super big flex, and then like
Ooh, big
back
stretch.
into a balled up fist. And you know, did you like that visual?
Yeah, I was like, ooh, big stretch.
Big stretch. Yeah, like he's a fucking dog, and back into a strong fist, and he like, you know, power walks back into the house, and like it's just, you know, everybody's like gagged over that because, you know, it's kind of like I don't know what the actual, I mean, it was improvised. I knew that much, that it was an improvised like hand flex, and I guess like the camera just caught it at the perfect time, and they're like, that's gold. In my interpretation, it's because he was just like, ooh, I touched a girl. I touched a cool girl. And then was like, but back to being a man.
But I'm grumpy.
But I'm grumpy about it. She's hot, but I hate it.
Yeah, I think my interpretation, well, I know that like the way that it's shot that way is because the director, Joe Wright, like hates scenes of people getting in and out of carriages. He thinks they're boring.
It's just a very specific thing to hate.
Yeah, I don't know.
A scene of people getting in and out of carriages. I'm confused.
So he wanted to film it in like a more dynamic way. So he focused on their hands and faces rather than like their bodies getting into the carriage. And I think because he did that, there's a lot more room to like interpret like the intimacy between the two characters, you know? So like you see him like it's a close up of him holding her hands, helping her in. So we don't see like their bodies, we just see their hands, but we know like the gesture that's going on and like the intimacy that's like in just like two people holding hands. And then we see her like shocked. She's kind of like confused, like, why he touched me. Yeah, he touched me. Ew. And then he turns around like stone cold. And he's just very like stiff. He's a very reserved person. And that hand flex is just kind of like a release of tension and energy. It's like a little bit of a climax, if you will, but
not that they believed in washing hands back then, but you know he did not wash that hands for 6 months.
It's like so ew. Anyways, yeah, it's a great scene. Classic. Very well, it's very like well constructed piece of editing, I think.
Agreed.
Because it just does something and it's like not obvious. It's just within the context that the audience can pull from it. And just that motion of like flexing and releasing tension is like visceral. So very well done.
Indeed.
Another one of my favorite scenes is so I think my two favorite scenes. One we've already talked about, when he busts in and like surprise attacks her. And then the second is the proposal scene, because it's just like so like intense. And
well, the fake proposal, like where, not the fake one, but the failed proposal, or the real one?
The failed proposal.
Got it. Where it's raining and it's just,
yes, the Netflix
crazy.
Like reel for the movie, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're like screaming at each other and they're like this close to each other and like about to kiss, and it's just like just yeah,
just do it,
just kiss.
No keys.
Yeah, the rhythm in the scene is just like perfect. I think it's a master class of directing and acting and editing, and everything is just working together. And Jane Austen's writing fits the aesthetic obviously perfectly and enhances it, because it's just like no one talks like that, but it's like you get the like passion behind everything that they're saying. So, and
it just rings like, it just like feels like two intelligent people who are acting stupid having a fight. Like that's how it is, and that's how what it's supposed to be, and that is exactly how it feels. You're like, oh, you're so perfect for each other, but you hate each other just for dumb reasons. Stop right now and kiss.
But I love how like Matthew McFadden's Darcy is a little more vulnerable or at least he feels more vulnerable in this scene because he shows up, he's drenched, and he like proposes, and you feel like he's bearing his soul. And then Keira Knightley is just like, nah, bitch, and you're kind of like, oh, harsh, Lizzie.
Then you gotta harken back to like what she heard from his
Yeah.
cousin, like in the church, and you're like, I would be as heated, if not more, if I was her. So you're like, but everybody loves Darcy. So you're like, it's just this like battle of like, two faves going at it. You're just like,
But knowing what we know, like seeing the movie and reading the books and whatever, we know how it all turns out. We know Darcy, like who Darcy is. But so like watching his performance and his reaction to like the things that she's saying to him, I think is he just does like an incredible job because he's just like shook at like the things she's accusing him of, but also just like, nah, bitch, like, no.
but like also when she kind of throws everything he just said to her back in his face, like, you're proposing to me, but you just called me like poor trash. You said my family's crazy. You like hate everything about me, but you still love me. Like you think I should accept all that? And then he's like, well, yes, because I'm like cool and rich. And she's like, I'm not just gonna throw myself at you because you're cool and rich. Like you obviously suck and need, to grow. And he's like, well, fuck you too then.
Yeah,
so
it's wonderful. Wonderful scene.
It is brilliant. Another classic is I actually love the scene where Judi Dench, the Duchess, shows up in the middle of the night to like yell at Lizzie because, she had, I guess, she caught wind. You kind of don't really understand how, at least in the movie, like it's kind of hard to get how the Duchess kind of figures it out that Darcy's got the hots for Lizzie, but
I feel like Darcy's like kind of this is just me. I feel like this is not correct at all. But my interpretation is Darcy was like, hey, we're getting married. And she's like, what? And then he doesn't elaborate. And so she has to like go like investigate.
My thing is, I think she heard about this massive dowry that like she heard about the marriage between Wickham and Lydia. And she probably like, snooped around, like she had somebody snoop around for her and she figured out how that happened and that Darcy arranged it. And she's like, oh fuck no, because she's not dumb. She saw like how Darcy looked at Lizzie, like it was at her fucking hometown, her turf where the initial proposal went down. So she was like, no, I gotta bring this to the source. And she goes and confronts Lizzie, and Lizzie's like, suck my ass, you old hag. Like, you are insulting me in my own home. Like, please leave. Technically, what you're saying is not true. But if Darcy came around tomorrow and proposed, I would say yes. So get out.
Let's talk about casting.
Brilliant. 12 out of 10. Could not have done anything better. Could have done a lot of things worse.
Let's start with Keira Knightley.
I think she's just like, Keira Knightley is so beautiful, but like the way they put her together in the film, like she's still attractive, but like the way they dressed her, the way they like did her makeup, like she was also just like a provincial woman, basically. Like she was like a pretty provincial woman, like cool. Like her personality is supposed to shine more than her looks because Jane's supposed to be like the hot one. And Rosamund Pike is the hot one, so in the movie. So, 12 out of 10. But she also is just phenomenal because like she's got the upper crust accent, but like she just memorized the lines so well. Like talking about the proposal scene, like they're throwing like old-timey word after old-timey word, and like it hits, it slaps, it punches. You're just like, man, I don't know what the fuck all these are individually as words, but like strung together, I understand exactly what you're getting across. So she's amazing.
I agree. I think she's gorgeous in the movie, but still feels very like attainable. I don't know if that's the right word. Like relatable. She's supposed to be kind of like the audience stand-in, like in the book, like we all relate to Lizzie Bennett. Like we see ourselves in Lizzie Bennett in one way or another, you know, because
Yeah.
she's like our way into the story.
Yeah.
And I feel like Keira Knightley does a really good job of encapsulating that. I know Joe Wright, like when he was casting for the film, didn't initially want Keira Knightley because he thought that she was too pretty. But then when they met in person, he was like, "Oh nah, she's fine."
So rude.
I think
You're perfect.
It was more because she's like kind of tomboyish. And so like the mix between her classic beauty and her energy just like felt very Lizzie Bennett. So
definitely.
Like what do you think of Lizzie Bennett like as a character before we move on to the other casting choices?
I think she's one of the better female protagonists out there because like she has her flaws, obviously. Like, what is this story if it's not like pointing out everyone's flaws and like how all of it adds up to like absolute chaos and misunderstanding? But she's very consistent with like her morals and her attitude. It's just like once things are like it's not like she has this like grandiose like character change, character development. It's like, you know, because this film is only really supposed to take place over the course of like a year. So yeah, people change a lot in a year, but like also not that much, and also maybe not as much in the time of like, you know, candlelight and no internet, because you're exposed to pretty much the same thing year after year. Her like character development, or like her, I guess, like arc is just her learning new information and like processing it and acting, you know, accordingly. Like she doesn't like go through some like massive trauma and comes out completely different, or comes out like with a new character trait. She's just like a smart girl who loves her family and like knows what she's worth, and she's not going to put up with shit. And then once she realizes that she was wrong about certain things, she sees, you know, Darcy in a new light, and she's like, oh no, I fuck with this. Like, and she's capable of admitting that she was wrong. And she's like, I was wrong because I learned new information about Darcy. He's hot, he slaps, I'm gonna marry that dude.
I don't know why. It like feels very like akin to like cancel culture kind of, or like people like she sees like a BuzzFeed article like top 5 worst things about Mr. Darcy and is like, yeah, you know what, that's it. BuzzFeed told me that, you know, he's trash, so he's then, you know, fuck him forever. But then like realizing BuzzFeed actually is kind of a dick, and
BuzzFeed is anti-Darcy no matter what. And then she reads an MSNBC article, clickbait article about why Darcy's doesn't suck, written by Darcy, but still factually accurate. And then she's like, oh.
And then he like pays off her student loans or something, and she's like, you know what, let's get married.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, I agree with everything you said. She's, I think, not an annoying female character. I feel like I don't know why, but a lot of the like more iconic, like classic trope of female characters, I think we've talked about this before in previous episodes, just like come across as very like two-dimensional.
Sadness,
like they don't really grow because they're already perfect, you know. They don't listen to anybody because they're confident and don't need to like, can't tell me anything, you know. And it's just like kind of boring. And but also, like you said, she doesn't go through any like severe trauma. It's like just things happen, people make mistakes, and she learns new information, and that's like how the story progresses. It's not like some horrific thing happens to her and that's how she becomes a better person or stronger person. It's like she just judges someone and then realizes that she was wrong about him, and everybody lives happily ever after.
Exactly, because like nothing that happens to Lizzie or anyone in the movie or the book is out of the ordinary to like life in that time and in that region, because like that could have been like the 5th time she went out on this like countryside tour with her aunt and uncle, and like this time they're like, oh, let's tour Pemberley this time. We haven't done it the last 5 summers we've done this. And she's like, the only circumstances that are different is that she just knows the dude who owns it now. Like she's met Darcy. And Darcy lives there, so Darcy can go there whenever the fuck he wants. So like it's not like a meteor crash, no zombie apocalypse, no civil war. It's just life in the country of England, and it's beautiful and it's simple, but it's also awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the very brief research I've done on Jane Austen, from what I've gathered, she is known to and like praised for really only writing about like what she knows,
right,
and like her life experience, and she doesn't like venture out past that for most of her work, which makes her work feel very grounded and real and true to life, but also like humorous because she can like she's a master at burns.
Yeah. Oh my god, she's so good.
All right, so Keira Knightley, fantastic. Lizzie Bennet, awesome. All right. So Mr. Darcy himself, Matthew Macfadyen.
Okay.
McFadyen. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but
yeah, Matthew Macfadyen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, he is so lovely. Like, I don't know, he is the perfect Darcy. I mean, so is Colin Firth, but like for the film, like he's the perfect like film Darcy. Because like as you said, like he is just like he just has that like lost, like beaten, like puppy dog look when Lizzie's like, get out of here. Like when she shuts him down, like he looks so hurt and so guarded, and so like he just like, yeah, he is very vulnerable, embodies all of like what Darcy must be feeling being rejected by like his ideal woman, because like he's in like his 30s, like she's supposed to be like 21 or 22 and he's like late 20s early 30s, so like obviously like men of that like status can get married whenever they want, as many times as they want, like obviously in sequential order, not necessarily like have 15 wives, but you get what I'm saying. So like it's not as weird that he's like 31 and unmarried, but it kind of shows that like he had other things in mind. He wasn't thinking about marriage, but he meets Lizzie, and within the course of like 3 months of knowing her, he's like, I'm gonna marry that bitch. And then she turns around and she's like, you're not worth my time. Like, don't breathe the same air as me. Get out of my sight. And like how wounded that must be to go like 31 years and like, I'm sure he's had many proposals and many offers from other families be like marry, and he's obviously had like the underline that like he's supposed to marry his cousin. So like all of that aside, he's like, no, Lizzie, and then she rejects him. That must have been that is like character. That is the one thing that like would have shook your world. That's why he had more character development, so to speak, than Lizzie did. Because like he's this grumpy dude. He wants nothing to do with nobody. And he seems like after that moment, he seems to be more patient, more tolerant of like people of a lower status. Cause like he goes to the hotel, like when they meet again in Pemberley, it's like awkward. She walks back and he's like, I know you want to walk back. And like Loki's like, I love you for it. So like she walks back, and like because she took the long way, like he just like hopped on his fucking horse and like giddy up to like half a mile down the road and like walked into this like plain basic ass hotel where like any humdrum mofo is like walking around. He walks right up to her aunt and uncle and is like, we should hang out, lowly folk. I'm reaching out to you. So like that's like a huge character development. Then he's like, oh yeah, you're right, I do kind of suck and I treat like poor people like shit.
And, like, or at least that's like how he's being perceived by her,
right?
Because like the like his maids and stuff, like his servants all say like, oh no, he's like super generous, like he's always been very generous, and like poor people love him because he is very kind and liberal with his money and helpful and all that. But like he realizes like to Lizzie, he did not come across that way.
Right. He comes off as this like classist dick, and he's like, let me turn the tables real quick. Let me readjust. And yeah, he walks into this hotel, walks right up to like, and again, they're not like poor people. They're just like of a slightly lower class than he is. And he's like, hello, lower class guys and gals, let's go fishing and hang out at my estate tomorrow. And they're like, awesome. And so like he's obviously doing that as like he says it himself, he's like, all of this I did for you. He's like, I'm doing all this for you, bitch. And you're just like, oh, I love it. It's just
Yeah, I think
the
Matthew
perfect
McFadyen
person.
is, I agree, he's like the perfect movie Darcy, because
Mhm.
he's not as grumpy as Colin Firth is in the
Mhm.
miniseries. But he's got the voice that, like, Colin Firth doesn't have that voice.
Right.
So that like kind of gives him that like more broody feel.
Mhm.
But he still has the like puppy dog wounded, like vulnerable man face. It all works. It works for me. I don't know.
Yeah. He carries it well.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't trade him for the world. I mean, obviously Colin Firth's done it, so like if they're like, no, we have to redo it, but only with Colin Firth, I would be like, yeah, fine. But you know, if you can get Michael McFadyen in, that'd be great.
Yeah,
Or
I think,
Matthew McFadyen. I keep calling him Michael McFadyen for whatever reason.
but it's funny because like I watched Succession before I saw Pride and Prejudice. So I know him from Succession, and he is
Nice.
like completely different in that show. And he is my favorite. He's my favorite part of that show. So it's,
Doesn't he have an American accent in the show?
yes,
Okay. I've never seen Succession.
he's like Midwestern.
Nice.
So
Classic.
he's like the like Midwestern, not poor boy, but like the like not millionaire boy marrying into like
Ah.
this family, and how he like navigates that. But
Mm.
he's very skeezy and very funny and just
I
very
love it.
different than Mr. Darcy. But I love his range. I appreciate it so much.
Clearly.
Like it just makes me appreciate him as an actor and as a person even more.
I
Um,
agree.
all right, and so then we have Donald Sutherland. Like you said, he's been around since the dawn of film,
It
and
really has.
I feel
He's
like he
just
was an interesting choice
he
for Mr.
was.
Bennett.
I loved his little list though. Like I was obsessed with it. And I kind of love how he's like, because like I guess back in the time, like the man of the house is kind of is supposed to be like full of more bravado and more like protection and like this is my land, this is my house. And he's straight up just like he's like kind of vulnerable. He's kind of just like meek. Like he's not a bad person, but he's just kind of like old and like doesn't give a fuck anymore. Like he's just like whatever, I'm on my way out. It's my time's coming soon. So, all this stuff. It is very like so Donald Sutherland in general was an interesting choice for all of that, but he does it really well because he's got the little lisp, he's got the white hair, so he's like older in general anyway, but like he's not a big buff dude. He's just like an average sized dude, just like chilling on a farm with his fam,
Mm-hmm.
not really caring what does or does not happen, which is like so weird. But I liked it. He was cute.
Yeah, he doesn't. I feel like in other renditions, Mr. Bennett definitely feels more warm, and I
Mm.
think Donald Sutherland's version is a little more reserved and not as expressive, which is weird because I said earlier, like all of the Bennett family's like dynamics is a little more warm in this film, which is true. But I think
Yeah.
him in particular, he's a little less like involved in the movie than in some other adaptations. But I think it works because at the end he cries when she gets engaged, and
Oh.
so it's like, okay, he does care, he is
Yeah.
involved, he is invested in his daughters and does care, like what happens. So I think it was very good choice.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of like my family where like just the men in my family, like my immediate family, are like a little more reserved. Like they just like not reserved like they're hard and mean or whatever, but they're just like quieter, kind of whatever. And then the women, there's more women in our family, and we're just a bit more boisterous and loud and stronger personalities, more expressive, etc. So like when you were describing like the daughters as a unit, I was like, and you can relate, like
Yeah.
your family's only girls of the children, so it's like the women kind of bond as like a unit, and then like the one man or like the two or three lonely men are just kind of like, we are men, yes, but we are dominated by strong-willed women. This is interesting. Didn't expect life to come out like this. So that's why like there's a special place in my heart for Mr. Bennett, generally speaking. But yes, he was a great choice.
Yeah, I think we should do speed round through some of the rest of the casting so we can get to our top 5.
Okie dokie.
So we got Judi Dench as Miss Catherine de Bourgh. She has a very small role in the film, but also a very large role. I feel like she does that a lot, where she's like not in the film a lot, but plays a huge like art in the story, you know?
Right, yeah.
I think she does this type of character very well. The very like stiff, bitchy,
yeah,
like regal character that kind of comes in with all of her power, and the other characters have to maneuver around her. And I think she adds a lot to whatever film she does.
Exactly.
Rosamund Pike, I think she's such a dynamic actress. Like I think she's incredible. Like she does Gone Girl and is like this like cold ice queen, manipulative, crazy, well not crazy, but kind of crazy character. And then in this she's like the most demure and sweet and innocent, kind.
And like there's no like looking at it and being like, I don't buy it. You know, like she is just like the sweet Jane, like sweet, you know, totally normal. Nothing wrong with her. Jane.
Did you know that the guy who plays Mr. Bingley, I believe his name's Simon Woods, that they dated like before the movie? So they were exes at the time of filming.
Oh no.
So
that's so awkward.
Yeah. So the director was like, I didn't want to cast Simon, but he was just like too perfect for the role. So
I mean, he is a golden retriever human.
Yeah.
And that's who Bingley is. So it is perfect casting.
And they have like great chemistry. So I think it works out. But he called Rosamund and was like, hey, is this okay? And she was like, yeah, it's fine. So I'm sure it was very difficult and very strange, but I think it worked out. And I think that's just like a very interesting, weird.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. We got Jenna Malone as Lydia. I feel like that was pretty spot on casting.
Yeah. Because like she's the same person as she is in the Hunger Games, where she's just this like wild, like sexual person. You know, gotta respect it. She got what she wanted in the end. An army man's. True.
We got Carey Mulligan. This was her first film ever.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. She's come a long way.
She really has. She wasn't in it much, but you know, she was cute.
We got Rupert Friend, I believe, as Mr. Wickham. I don't know. I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
I don't think so either. I feel like if I looked him up though, and like I feel like if you go to his like not discography, his like film like history, you'll probably like he's probably in Game of Thrones. I swear he's in Game of Thrones. Like he's in Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. Like
he looks like Mr.
Who,
Doctor Who, not Mr. Who.
Master Whom.
I never watched it. Sorry, don't come after me.
He's in one of those like really famous British
shows.
Yeah.
He's like a villain in Sherlock or something, but he looks like
I gotta look this up. If he's in Game of Thrones, I'm gonna like pee myself.
He looks like a kind of like Walmart brand's Orlando Bloom. So
yeah, like a bit stockier, like a bit like a slightly thicker Orlando Bloom.
And then we have Tom Hollander as Mr. Collins, and he's just like such a weird little man, and I think he was perfect.
He's in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's the and again he's also chasing after Keira Knightley because he's the Navy guy, the British Navy guy with the powdered wig and he proposes to Keira Knightley in the first scene.
Are you
Or the
sure?
first movie, and she faints and falls. Isn't that him?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it's the same
I feel like
guy.
all British men look the same, so
Oh my god. Well, I'll look it up later, but I'm almost certain.
I know he was in Bird Box. I know that, but
he was in Bird Box.
But yeah, anyways, I thought he's good casting. He's very strange and awkward and kind of like uncomfortable in his own skin, and that choice is very good for Mr. Collins. Okay, so do we have any other final thoughts on the film before we move on to our top fives?
I have no other thoughts except for everyone should watch this movie at least 4 times a year. That is my prescription. Yes. I was right. Tom Hollander is in Pirates of the Caribbean. Interesting. Who is he in Bird Box? Sorry, like that threw me. I've seen Bird Box, right?
Well, good job. Good job.
Anyway. But Rupert Friend was not in Game of Thrones, so.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, damn.
We're gonna find out that he did like one of those things where he just retired from acting and now he like owns a pawn shop somewhere.
I wish. I was scrolling. He does have a pretty extensive like acting history. I just don't know like if it's.
Is it just like mostly like British television or something?
Like mostly like kind of like low like British television or like B-list movies you haven't seen or heard of. So sorry, Rupert.
Yeah, that's
You're
fine.
Great. You're great as Wickham.
As long as he's happy,
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I final thoughts on the movie. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a very good romance film. I find that a lot of romance films have moments of weakness, and this one doesn't really. And I think that's a testament to Jane Austen's writing and just her ability to create really dynamic, interesting characters that are very human.
I agree.
So good job, Jane Austen.
Good job, Jane. We love you. Also, props for naming the hot daughter Jane. I just love that fact. Like she's like, oh, our hot daughter Jane. It's like, I see what you did there, Jane.
Is this like a dig? Is it? Yeah, true. True. All right. So now let's move on to our top 5 favorite book to movie adaptations. I don't have mine in any particular order. I just have a list of 5.
I put mine in an order.
Okay.
But they're all pretty close, you know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm like, like it wasn't pulling teeth to think of one.
All right. Okay. So I believe the rules that we came up with when coming up with this category, we said that we had to have read the books that of the movies that we chose. Correct. So there are a lot of movies that I've seen that I love that are based off of books, but I never read the books, so I can't put them on my list.
Only films, not TV shows.
Yes, only films, not TV shows. So no Game of Thrones.
And we can include Shakespeare and the Bible.
Yes. I did not do that. But
neither did I.
Okay. We just threw it in there for
you
fun.
said something about the Passion of the Christ, but I was like, stop. I was like, my dad is not
in honor of Peter Devlin, I had to put it on my list.
My number 5, I have Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Is this your only Harry Potter on your list?
It's not.
Okay.
It's number 5 because I think it's like just I think it's the closest in my opinion to like how the series, like how the book, The Goblet of Fire goes. Like of all the Harry Potters, not only is it like pretty close to like the events of the book, but it's also just like the most entertaining book-wise and series-wise. Because it's got the whole Tri-Wizard tournament. Like it's just so fun, and seeing it come to life on screen is like really great. So that is my choice for number 5. What about you?
That's a great one. Interesting enough, I have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban at my number 5. I think it's my favorite of the 7 books. Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite of the books, and it's just, I don't know, the movie feels very true to the book.
I think Prisoner of Azkaban is like the scariest of all of the movies and of all the books, because like who is Sirius Black? Like what's the deal with all these Dementors? Like I remember reading it as a kid and being like not scared, but like kind of like ooh, like literal like witchy vibes. So
It's a very good it's a very good like fall, like Halloween type movie.
Agreed.
It's the first of the series where the tone is a lot darker.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe the first two films were directed by Christopher Columbus, and then this one was directed by Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah.
And so the tone is a lot darker because the story gets a lot darker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just was super drawn in.
And it's like a big mystery. Like there's a big mystery surrounding the story of the Prisoner of Azkaban. So
yeah,
that also makes it like, because like the first two are like cute. Like there's a mystery in like Chamber of Secrets, but it's just kind of like it's still them just being like, hee hee,
we're children.
Oh no, someone turned to stone. Darn, like that's weird.
Yeah, I will say Goblet of Fire is also very good. I feel like as I've gotten older, it's moved up on my rankings of the Harry Potter. But so those are our number 5. Number 4, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is my other Harry Potter. It's Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Oh.
Because it's just so cute. Like it's just adorable. It's like kind of how you said Azkaban is a good Halloween movie. Goblet of Fire is a good Christmas movie.
I agree.
Because like everyone loves the Christmas scene where it's like Happy Christmas, Ron, Happy Christmas, Harry. Like so cute. And like they're just like, because now you know what they look like as adults and like how they've grown and like progressed in their careers, and it's just so fun, like, and very nostalgic to like look at them as little babies.
Very true.
So I love it.
And that one's like a classic because it like sets up the whole tone of the series, and I think it definitely does a good job of like translating the world of the book on screen. It just is a very good setup. So it's a good choice.
Thanks. What about you?
My number 4 is Holes.
Oh my god! Did I read Holes? No, I think I didn't read Holes, but I've seen Holes. Obviously, everybody on this planet's seen Holes.
I read Holes, I believe, in 6th grade. Yeah, I think I was in 6th grade. And the book was written by Louis Thatcher. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And he also like helped co-write and co-direct the film. But it's just, I don't know, like I'm not a well-read person, so I feel like a lot of my choices are going to be very juvenile because it's like I'm drawing from a lot of the books that I read when I was younger. Because it helps, it's just they're nostalgic and it influences the types of movies that I watch and the types of movies that I enjoy. But yeah, so Holes is my number 4.
Nice.
Number 3.
Oh, okay. My number 3 is Bridge to Terabithia.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, I had a dark turn. We're gonna bring it down a notch. Well, I was just thinking about like I haven't seen Bridge to Terabithia in a really long time, but I remember reading it, and like of course it's a really sad book. But watching the movie, like little Josh Hutcherson, whatever, and little Anna Sophia Robb, so cute. Like their friendship is just so lovely. Like, and it's so pure, and like they are obvious. I think they're actually good friends in real life. I might be wrong, but like that is my understanding. And like they just have that great like friendship chemistry, and then it is all ripped, swept from under you like a fucking nuclear bomb. And so you're just like left like with like visually with the aftermath, and like the scene where, because like he doesn't like fully like register or like process the fact that she's died, his friends, spoiler alert, like she's died. And like the moment he does finally like break down and like cry and like, you know, just like it all like comes flooding out, weeping, like I'm sobbing, it's over, like not a dry eye in the house. So brilliant performance by two like child actors at the time. So that is my choice.
I never read the book, but I have seen the movie, and it is. I don't think I will be reading the book.
The book is just as devastating as the movie, so
Yeah.
you dodged a bullet.
My number 3 is Into the Wilds. It's a so the movie was directed by Sean Penn, but it's based off of the nonfiction novel by John Krakauer, about a young man who hikes.
Olivia.
Yes.
I was thinking about Into the Woods, not Into the Wild. I was like, Sean Penn directed Into the Woods. Like fucking James Corden singing and shit. Sorry. Now I'm registered.
No, not Into the Woods. Into the Wilds.
Into the Wild, yes.
It's about a young man who hikes into the wilderness.
Yes.
To kind of discover himself.
Candless, right?
Yes.
Was the guy's name? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tracking.
Yeah. And then he unfortunately loses his life while he's out there.
That's right.
But I read this in high school. I believe it was my sophomore year. And I remember it being just like a very like controversial book. Like between like we had to do those like debates or whatever, like after reading books in English class. And like I feel like a lot of like my fellow students, they were like, yeah, well, he deserved to die because he was an idiot for like going out there. And I felt like that wasn't the point of the book. Like there's just so much that you can get out of the story, and it's like just a very harrowing story of this man like doing something difficult, but also just like trying to do something for himself, and like whether or not you agree with his choices, like it's just a very beautiful story. And I thought that the film did a really good job of like depicting that, but also doing a good job of like paying respect to the real guy. And yeah, I don't know, it's just made an impact. So
I also read Into the Wild because we went to high school together, so I remember reading it in high school, but I never saw the movie, so I'll have to go and watch it.
Yeah. All right, and now what is your number 2?
Number 2, I have Emma, also by Jane Austen.
Oh,
have you seen the new Emma?
I have not read or seen any version of it.
So oh my god,
my reaction to that was false. I was lying.
You're like, oh cool, and I'm like, tell me everything you know, and you're like,
Caught me.
It's so good. It has Anya Taylor-Joy. It has Bill Nighy and other people I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's her comedy. Because I mean, all of her books and like her works have like funny moments, but like Emma is supposed to be a comedy about like a young girl who thinks like she's like a wealthy girl who thinks she's like a matchmaker. Like she's just bored. She's like, I'm a matchmaker. And like everybody's like, no, you're just a bored, dumb, rich girl. She's not dumb, but like, you know, you're just a bored, rich girl. You're not actually a matchmaker and you're making mistakes and messing with people's lives. And so that's essentially what it's about. It's so good. And it's also a romance because like she has her like, you know, love interest. So it's just brilliant and it's very funny. Even with like the old timey words, like kind of like Pride and Prejudice, you're just like, oh, that's still a really funny moment, even though like I haven't used any of those words in these vocabulary that they use ever. So
yeah, you've praised it a lot, so I'm very intrigued to read it and watch it. So maybe we'll have to do an episode on it.
We should. It's a long movie. It's like over 2 hours. But the book Emma is like, I think it was multiple volumes. Like when Jane Austen, it was originally published, it was like 2 or 3 volumes, and now it's a book that's like heckin' fat. So
heckin' fat.
That's our t-shirt for this season. Is
this season big hot takes, big thoughts, heckin'
hot
fat.
takes and big thoughts.
Heckin' fat.
Heckin' fat. So
cool.
That's my number 2.
Nice. My number 2 is The Outsiders. Have you seen or heard of The Outsiders? No? Okay.
I'm surprised. Wait, is The Outsiders like a Stephen King novel?
No.
Okay, because I'm surprised so far that Stephen King hasn't popped up on either of our lists.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King, and I
Me either.
haven't read any of his books. So even if I
Actually,
had,
you know what? Fair. Neither have I. I've attempted to read a couple of his books and was not successful.
well, yeah, that's a lie. I have read most of The Shining, but
Yeah.
was that Guinness?
Enough said. That was Guinness, yes. That was not my butt. That was my dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I was that casual blowing over like a massive fart or whatever that sounded like,
You're just like, yeah.
If I was able to pull that off, I'd be unstoppable. But no, that was Guinness and not my body.
Anyways, The Outsiders is it was a 1967 novel by S.E. Hinton. And the movie was directed by Francis Ford Coppola and released in 1983. It starred, I'm forgetting everyone's names, but I know Tom Cruise was in it. It was one of his first movies. He played like, he was a very, very small role, but it had Patrick Swayze, the kid from The Karate Kid.
Oh yeah,
Ralph Macchio.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I forgot his name. Nice.
Yeah, so it's like a story about these teenagers. It's kind of a coming of age story.
Right.
Yeah.
This is starting to sound familiar.
Yeah, there's like greasers and socias and rumbles and murder.
This sounds like a book that was introduced to us in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite books
nice.
in high school. And the movie is a classic. It's great.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All right. So what is your number one film book adaptation?
I mean, come on now. It's Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
It's P&P. Classic.
Nice.
I've said as much as I can say, just kidding. So good. I mean, I'll be brief because we just talked a whole lot about it, but so good. Cast is great. It's a beautiful romance movie. It's my comfort movie. I haven't read the book in a long time, but I did read it probably in high school. So it counts and it's my number one.
Nice.
What about you?
Twilight. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, Twilight is an honorable mention.
Surprised is not on our list.
It's an honorable mention, but it's not my favorite.
It's an honorable mention for me too.
My number one is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Nice.
This I think has consistently been like one of my favorite novels since I've read it. I can't really pinpoint why. It's just interesting. It's like written from a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
The narrator is very unreliable.
Of course.
The characters are damaged and interesting, and it's written during a time of like people slowly starting to understand how people in institutions are being treated, and it's a critique of capitalism, and I love that. So
what movie I watched? So I read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I never watched the movie. But a movie I did watch not too long ago, which I believe is supposed to be like inspired by One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is Girl Interrupted.
Yeah.
That was good. That was a good movie. I liked it. So that is my thoughts. That is all I can say. I didn't watch One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I watched the gender bend.
Right.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But I like it better because like she ends up leaving the hospital unscathed, pretty much. So,
but yeah, I that's, you haven't seen it, so that's all I'll say. Yeah, so those are our lists. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Twilight, of course.
Twilight, yeah.
The Twilight series.
Of course.
And honestly, actually, I've only seen the Hunger Games.
Oh, I forgot about the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I know. Well, you were talking about like one note or two dimensional, like female protagonists. and I was like always thinking of Katniss, but like the book itself is like really good. The movie, I don't know, like I wasn't crazy for Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss, but that would be like another honorable mention, that it was just cool that it became a movie, I guess.
True.
And that also has my childhood BFF, Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have quite a few honorable mentions.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear them.
Interview with a Vampire.
Did you read Interview with a Vampire?
I did.
Wow.
I'm not done with it. That's what
You
I
can
haven't
read?
finished it, so I haven't. That's why it wasn't on my list, because
Oh,
I
okay,
didn't think
okay.
it was fair. I haven't finished the book
Right.
yet.
Right.
Gone Girl.
Mm.
Obviously Lord of the Rings.
Right.
But that's like a juggernaut. Like it's like it's three books to 3 movies. Like it's not fair, you know. Like can't include that. We got The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's a classic. It's a good one.
Yeah, I did read that actually. I also read Prince Caspian. I kind of read them out of order.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then my last one was American Psycho. I did read the book. The movie is much better than the book. I'll say that. We're gonna do an episode on it eventually. That's where we left off, but never came back around.
Never picked up.
No.
Did I end up watching American Psycho? No.
So.
Not yet.
We'll get to it, but those are some of my honorable mentions.
Yeah, I don't have any others. I mean, I like reading. I've read a lot, but I don't know how many, but I just don't watch movies. So like any book I've read that was made a movie, there are very few that I've seen the movie of, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Also, I'm a more nonfiction gal than I am a fiction gal these days. So
yeah, you are much more like well read than I am. So this is, I think, a good combination of our two worlds together.
Right.
Film and books.
You're more well watched.
Yeah.
Well viewed. I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't know. Well seen.
Yes. All right. Okay, so those are our top 5 book to movie adaptations. I'm excited for this like new setup thing that we're doing.
Renaissance.
Yeah. This was a very fun welcome back episode. I love Pride and Prejudice. I'm excited and happy that we got to talk about it. And I'm excited to be talking about movies again.
I agree. I'm glad we're back. I'm glad we finally sat down and we're like, it is time. And did a whole like Lion King moment. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we've been talking long enough. We have plenty of time and other episodes to keep gabbing away. So let's wrap it up, and I'll see you next time.
Sounds great.
I guess
wrap it up,
I don't keep up with the socials, but we'll dust them off.
Oh yeah.
You can follow us.
Notifications, and I'm like,
I know. Yeah.
Oh shit.
You can follow us on Instagram if you'd like to. I will start posting again at Another Picture Show on Instagram. You can follow us to listen to us anywhere you get podcasts. So Spotify, Google Podcasts. We'll post this on YouTube, and who knows, maybe this is the first one where you can see our faces. We'll see.
Maybe.
If you're watching it and I said that, then you already know that that's the case. But
yeah, we're here.
Yeah.
Full of cheer.
All right. Well, I love you, Madeline, and thank you for chatting, and I will see you soon.